18 of the world's finest doctors stood helpless around a dying newborn. Monitors screamed. The billionaire mother collapsed against the gold-trimmed walls, watching her only child fight for his life. Then the doors to the surgical wing exploded open. A man in dirt-stained work clothes stumbled through, his boots tracking soil across the pristine floor. Security guards grabbed at him, but he twisted free with surprising strength, his eyes wild and desperate. "Stop the procedure!" His voice cracked with urgency. "If you do this, you will kill him!" Dr. Chen looked up, startled. "Security! Get this man out of here!" "The baby is poisoned!" the man shouted, struggling against the guards now pinning his arms. "Not sick, poisoned! The plant in the nursery, oleander hybrid, cardiac glycosides. You're treating the wrong—" A security guard's arm locked around his throat, cutting off his words. "Remove him immediately," Dr. Chen ordered, returning his attention to the infant on the table. The billionaire mother watched the man being dragged backward, his eyes meeting hers through the glass. There was no madness in those eyes, only certainty, only terror. The heart monitor's steady beat began to stutter, then flatline. The room erupted into controlled chaos. Nurses moved like choreographed dancers. Dr. Chen's hands became a blur. Serena's scream was soundless, trapped behind the glass, behind her shock, behind the sudden understanding that money couldn't buy everything after all. The man in the work clothes went limp in the guard's grip, his head dropping forward in defeat. Then the screen went black. Wait, how did a low-life gardener know what 18 doctors missed? Hit the like button if you're already hooked. You'll need to stay until the end to find out if he was right, or if he just destroyed his only chance to save that baby. Trust me, nothing can make you prepared for the unexpected ending. 3 weeks earlier, dawn broke over Hollowcrest Estate like spilled honey, golden and slow. Malik Kofi knelt in the eastern garden, his hands deep in the soil, feeling for moisture content by touch alone. He'd been working at Hollowcrest for 7 months, 7 months of invisibility, of existing in the peripheral vision of the wealthy. The staff called him the gardener when they called him anything at all. Most days, he preferred it that way. The greenhouse key hung on a chain around his neck, warm against his skin. Inside that glass sanctuary, he cultivated plants that the head groundskeeper dismissed as ethnic decorations, bitterleaf, and several varieties of pepper plants that his grandmother had taught him to identify by scent alone. "You're here early." Martha, the head housekeeper, appeared with a cup of coffee. She was one of the few who called him by name. "Frost warning last night. Thought you might be worried about your plants." "Thank you, Miss Martha." Malik accepted the cup, wrapping his calloused hands around the warmth. "The delicate ones are inside. These here," he gestured at the dormant perennials, "they know how to wait." Martha smiled, but it faded quickly. "Have you heard about the baby?" "Baby?" "Mrs. Vale had her son 3 days ago. Boy. They're calling him Elliot." She lowered her voice. "First male heir to Valegen Industries in 2 generations. This place is about to become a fortress." Malik nodded slowly. He'd noticed the construction crew reinforcing the estate's perimeter, the new security cameras sprouting like mechanical flowers along the property line. Money protecting money, building walls against a world it didn't trust. "You ever had children, Malik?" The question landed soft but heavy. He was quiet for a moment, staring at the soil under his fingernails. "A daughter. She's with my sister, saving money to bring her here." "How long's it been?" 2 years, 4 months, 16 days. He said it automatically, the number always present in his mind like a second heartbeat. Martha squeezed his shoulder and left him to his work. The morning passed in comfortable silence. Malik pruned, watered, observed. A garden told stories if you listened, where water pooled, where pests gathered, where plants thrived or struggled. His grandmother had taught him to read these stories before he could read books. "Knowledge is not neutral," she told him once, grinding herbs in her mortar. "The same plant that saves can kill. The difference is intention and dosage and respect. He'd been 12 years old, watching her treat a child bitten by a snake. The antivenom had come from the same family of plants as the poison. Nature's cruel symmetry. "You have gentle hands," she'd observed. "Good for healing, but Malik—" She'd gripped his wrist, her eyes serious. "The deadliest plants are often the ones people admire most. Beauty and poison live together more often than anyone wants to believe." He hadn't understood then. But years later, working in pharmaceutical research in Canada before the company collapsed and his visa sponsorship evaporated, he'd seen the truth of it. The most beautiful chemical compounds, the ones that looked elegant on paper, that earned patents and profits, were often just one molecule away from toxicity. Now he was a gardener. His degrees meant nothing here. His research meant nothing. He was grateful just to work with soil again, to feel useful even in this diminished way. The afternoon brought Camille Vale to the gardens. She moved differently than her sister, looser, less controlled, like someone performing relaxation rather than feeling it. Her designer sunglasses probably cost more than Malik's monthly salary. "The gardener," she said, not quite looking at him. "I need your help with something." "Yes. Ma'am?" "I want to put a plant in the nursery. Something beautiful, calming. You know, for the baby." She pulled out her phone, scrolling through images. "I saw this gorgeous flowering plant at a boutique in the city. They said it's rare, very exclusive. Can you tell me if it would be appropriate?" Malik wiped his hands on his work pants and leaned in to look at the screen. The image showed a striking plant with glossy leaves and delicate pink flowers clustered in elegant sprays. His blood went cold. "Where did you see this? Does it matter?" Her tone sharpened. "Can you care for it or not?" "Ma'am, this plant—" He chose his words carefully. "It's not suitable for indoors, especially not near children. It's just a plant." She pulled the phone back, irritated. "I'm not asking for your opinion on suitability. I'm asking if you can keep it alive." "I can keep it alive," Malik said quietly. "But I strongly advise—" "Great. It'll be delivered tomorrow." She was already walking away, her heels clicking on the stone path. "Put it in a nice pot, something that looks expensive." Malik stood motionless, his mind racing. The plant in the photo was a hybrid oleander, probably crossbred for enhanced flowering. Beautiful, yes. And every part of it, leaves, stems, flowers, even the nectar, contained cardiac glycosides potent enough to stop a heart. His grandmother's voice echoed, "The deadliest plants are the ones people admire." He found Martha in the main house, folding linens in the utility room. "Miss Martha, I need to speak with Mrs. Vale." "She's not seeing anyone. Doctor's orders. Complete rest." Martha's expression softened at his distress. "What's wrong?" "Miss Camille wants to put a plant in the nursery. It's dangerous. Toxic. I need to explain." "Malik." Martha set down the towel she'd been folding. "I don't know what's going on between those sisters, but if Camille wants something, she usually gets it. You know how families like this work. A baby could die." "From a plant?" "Yes, from a plant." Martha studied his face. "You're serious?" "More serious than I've been about anything." She sighed, glancing toward the stairs that led to the private family wing. "I'll mention it. But Malik, your staff, they won't listen the way you want them to." He nodded, understanding. The invisible man could speak, but who would hear? That night, Malik lay in his small room above the garage, staring at the ceiling. His phone sat on his chest, displaying a photo of his daughter Nala. She was 7 now, gap-toothed and grinning, holding a certificate from school. His sister sent updates weekly, report cards, drawings, videos of Nala reading aloud in English. "Papa comes soon," she always said at the end of each video, her face close to the camera. "When, Papa?" When he had enough money. When his visa situation stabilized. When? He opened his laptop and searched for information on oleander hybrids, cross-referencing toxicity levels and exposure symptoms. The research confirmed his fears. Skin contact with the sap could cause irritation. Ingestion of even small amounts could cause severe cardiac complications. And infants, with their developing systems and tendency to put everything in their mouths, were especially vulnerable. He drafted an email to Mrs. Vale, then deleted it. Wrote another to Estate Security, deleted that too. How did you explain ancestral knowledge to people who trusted only peer-reviewed journals? How did you say, "My grandmother taught me," to people who bought their wisdom from institutions? The next morning, a delivery truck arrived carrying a stunning oleander hybrid in a hand-painted ceramic pot. Malik watched from the greenhouse as two men carried it toward the main house, his hands clenched into fists. He approached the head of security, a former police officer named Davis, who wore his authority like armor. "Sir, I need to report a safety concern." Davis barely looked up from his tablet. "What kind of concern?" "The plant being installed in the nursery. It's extremely toxic. If the baby comes in contact..." "Are you a botanist?" "I have studied..." "Are you certified in toxicology?" "No, sir, but..." "Then I suggest you stick to trimming hedges." Davis's eyes finally met his, cold and dismissive. Mrs. Camille Vale made her wishes clear. "That plant stays. If you have a problem with the family's decisions, there are 100 people who'd be happy to take your position." Malik felt the threat like a physical weight. He needed this job, needed the paycheck, the visa sponsorship, the pathway to bringing Nala here. But he also needed to sleep at night. He tried the household manager, who promised to look into it, with the enthusiasm of someone who had no intention of doing so. He tried the day nurse, who assured him the baby wouldn't be mobile for months and could hardly reach a plant. He tried Martha again, who hugged him and said she'd done what she could. "They think you're overreacting," she said gently. "Or that you don't want Camille to have her way. Staff politics, they think. It's not politics, it's chemistry." "I know, honey, but they don't." The plant remained in the nursery, positioned on a decorative stand near the window where morning light could showcase its flowers. Malik walked past it twice a day, his stomach churning. He'd offered to water it himself, hoping to at least control its placement, but Camille had hired a specialty plant service for that. "Only the best for my nephew," she'd said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. 3 days later, baby Elliot developed a slight rash. "Eczema," the pediatrician declared. "Common in infants. Nothing to worry about." But Malik worried. He'd seen the nurse brush against the oleander while adjusting the curtains, seen the baby's blanket draped over the plant's pot when someone had been rearranging furniture. Each contact a potential transfer of sap, of toxins, of invisible danger. 2 days after that, Elliot became fussy, refusing to feed properly. "Colic," the doctor said. "Also common, try different formula." They tried 6 formulas. The fussing continued. Then came the irregular heartbeat. Serena Vale sat in the nursery at 3 a.m, holding her son against her chest, feeling his heart flutter like a trapped bird. She'd called the pediatrician 4 times that night. He was coming in the morning. Everything would be fine. Everything had to be fine. Camille found her there at dawn. "You look terrible," Camille said, attempting sisterly concern. "When did you last sleep?" "His heart," Serena whispered. "Something's wrong with his heart. Babies' hearts beat differently than ours. You're panicking over nothing." But it wasn't nothing. By noon, Elliot was in the estate's private medical wing, hooked to monitors that beeped their mechanical worry into the sanitized air. By evening, 3 cardiologists had examined him. A security guard's arm locked around his throat, cutting off his words. Malik struggled, not to escape but to be heard, his voice rasping against the chokehold. "You're treating the wrong thing. Test for digitalis toxicity. The flowers, the sap, it's in everything. His clothes, his mother's skin." "Remove him immediately," Dr. Chen ordered, his voice cold with authority. 2 more guards converged, their hands rough as they wrenched Malik's arms behind his back. Through the observation window, Serena's eyes met his. For one suspended moment, Malik saw something flicker across her face. Not belief, but a desperate wish to believe. the look of a drowning person glimpsing a rope, uncertain if it's real or hallucination. Then Dr. Chen returned his attention to the tiny patient, and the moment shattered. "Let's proceed. We're losing time." The guards dragged Malik backward, his boots scraping against polished floor. In the surgical bay, nurses positioned themselves around the incubator. The anesthesiologist adjusted settings on machines that breathed for a baby, too weak to breathe alone. "Please," Malik whispered, though no one was listening anymore. "Please." The heart monitor's steady beat began to stutter, a rhythm searching for itself, finding only chaos. The sound shifted from regular pulses to an erratic scatter of tones that made even the guards hesitate. Then it flatlined. The shrill alarm cut through everything. Dr. Chen's hands moved with practiced speed, but Malik could see the fear in his movements now, the recognition that this was going wrong faster than protocols could fix. "Starting compressions," a nurse announced, her palms beginning rhythmic pressure on a chest the size of her hand. Malik stopped struggling. His body went limp in the guard's grip, a prayer dying on his lips. He'd tried. He'd broken every rule, risked everything, and still he was just the gardener, just the invisible man whose knowledge didn't count. In the observation room, Serena's silent scream was the loudest sound in the world. The guards dragged Malik to a holding room in the security wing, a windowless space with fluorescent lighting and the chemical smell of industrial cleaner. They cuffed him to a chair bolted to the floor and left him there, alone with his failure. Time became meaningless. Minutes or hours passed while Malik sat replaying every moment, every missed opportunity to make someone listen. He should have been more forceful. Should have found a way to speak to Serena directly. Should have removed the plant himself. Damn the consequences. The door opened. Davis, the head of security, entered with a tablet and an expression of profound disgust. Malik Kofi. Overstayed work visa by 4 months. Prior employment with Pharmatech Lagos terminated for, he scrolled, unauthorized research using company resources. Currently employed as groundskeeper. He looked up. That about sum it up? Malik said nothing. You just assaulted hospital staff during an emergency surgical procedure. You disrupted a sterile environment. You put an infant's life at further risk. Davis leaned against the wall. I've already called immigration. You'll be processed and deported within 48 hours. You're lucky we're not pressing criminal charges. Is the baby alive? That's not your concern anymore. Is he alive? Davis's jaw tightened. He's in critical condition. The surgery was complicated. Now, because of your stunt, the family's threatening to sue everyone involved for allowing a security breach during... He warned them. Multiple times. And now he's about to lose everything. His job, his visa, his chance to see his daughter. If this frustrates you as much as it frustrates me, drop a comment below telling me what you would do in his position. And subscribe so you don't miss what happens next, because this is about to get intense. Did they test for toxins? We're done here. Davis moved toward the door. Please. Malik's voice broke. Just test his blood for cardiac glycosides, digitalis-like compounds. It takes 15 minutes. If I'm wrong, I'll sign whatever papers you want. If you're right, you're claiming someone poisoned a baby with a houseplant. You understand how that sounds? I understand how oleander poisoning presents. Irregular heartbeat, nausea, hyperkalemia, visual disturbances, seizures, every symptom that baby has shown, every single one. Davis paused at the door, his hand on the handle. You're saying the plant in the nursery is poisonous? Highly, every part of it. 1 leaf could kill an adult. For an infant, even exposure to residue. Mrs. Camille Vale selected that plant personally. Something in Davis's tone made Malik look up. The security chief was studying him with new attention, calculation replacing contempt. She did, Malik confirmed. She insisted it be placed near the baby. Yes. And you warned people about this? Everyone who would listen. Which was no one. Davis stood silent for a long moment, then pulled out his phone and made a call. "Get Dr. Chen on the line. Tell him I need a tox screen run immediately. Yes, during surgery. I don't care. Test for—" He looked at Malik. "Oleandrin and other cardiac glycosides," Malik said, "similar to digoxin on most panels." Davis relayed the information and hung up. He studied Malik with an expression somewhere between respect and resentment. The look of someone whose worldview was being forcibly adjusted. "If you're wasting our time, I'm not. If you're right, then you ignored multiple warnings and nearly let a baby die because the person warning you wasn't important enough to hear." The words landed hard. Davis's face flushed, but he didn't respond. He simply left, locking the door behind him. Malik sat alone again, waiting. His wrists ached where the cuffs dug in. His throat hurt from being choked, but mostly he felt emptied out, wrung dry of everything except a hollow hope that he'd been heard in time. In the surgical bay, Dr. Chen paused mid-procedure. A nurse had appeared with a message from security, an unusual request for toxicology screening during active surgery. His first instinct was to refuse, to maintain focus on the pacemaker implantation. But something nagged at him. The symptoms had never quite aligned. The progression was wrong. And that man, the gardener, had shouted specific medical terms, cardiac glycosides, digitalis toxicity, with the precision of someone who actually understood pharmacology. "Get me a comprehensive tox screen," Dr. Chen ordered. "Priority on cardiac glycosides and plant-based toxins." "Doctor, we're in the middle of—" Now. Blood was drawn. Samples rushed to the lab with orders to expedite. The surgery continued, but with new hesitation. Dr. Chen's hands, so confident before, now moved with doubt's slight tremor. 15 minutes later, a lab technician burst through the doors, her face pale beneath her mask. "Dr. Chen, the baby's blood. There are extremely elevated levels of oleandrin and other toxic cardiac glycosides, levels consistent with severe poisoning." The surgical bay went silent except for the machines. Dr. Chen's hands froze above the tiny chest cavity. Around him, nurses exchanged looks of confusion and dawning horror. The pacemaker, already partially positioned, suddenly seemed like a catastrophic mistake, treating a symptom while the cause continued its deadly work. "Stop," Dr. Chen said quietly. Then louder, "Stop everything. We're not implanting the device." "Doctor," the assisting surgeon looked up, startled. "This isn't a congenital defect. It's active poisoning. If we implant the pacemaker now, we're just forcing a poisoned heart to beat itself to death faster." He stepped back from the table, his mind racing through treatment protocols he hadn't considered since toxicology rotations decades ago. "Get me activated charcoal, atropine, and digoxin-specific antibody fragments, and someone find out where this poison is coming from." Behind the observation glass, Serena saw the sudden change in the room's energy. Doctors who'd been focused and certain now moved with frantic purpose in a completely different direction. Equipment was being wheeled away. New medications appeared. "What's happening?" she asked the nurse stationed with her. "Why did they stop?" The nurse didn't answer, speaking rapidly into a phone instead. Camille touched her sister's arm. "Maybe it's good news. Maybe they found—" "Miss Vale." Davis appeared in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "I need to speak with you privately." "I'm not leaving my son." "Ma'am, it's about your son, about what's been making him sick." Serena turned slowly, and something in Davis's face made her blood run cold. "What do you mean?" "The plant in the nursery. It's toxic. Highly toxic. Your son has been poisoned." The words didn't make sense at first. They were sounds without meaning, syllables that refused to arrange themselves into comprehension. Serena blinked, her mind stuttering. "That's impossible. It's just a plant. Camille brought it." She stopped, turned to her sister. Camille's face had gone carefully blank, the expression of someone working very hard to show nothing at all. "Camille? Don't look at me like that. I didn't know." "How could I have known?" But her voice carried something off-key. a performance of innocence rather than innocence itself. "Ma'am," Davis continued, "our groundskeeper, Malik Kofi, attempted to warn multiple staff members about the plant's toxicity. He was dismissed. This morning he tried to stop the surgery to explain. We removed him before he could." "Where is he?" Serena's voice emerged strange and distant, as if someone else was speaking through her body. "In holding. Immigration has been called, but given the circumstances, I thought you should know. He may have saved your son's life." Serena looked back at the surgical bay, where doctors were now administering treatments for poisoning instead of implanting a device that would have complicated everything fatally. Then at her sister, whose face was beginning to crack at the edges, fear seeping through the careful blankness. "Show me the plant," Serena said. They walked to the nursery in silence. Serena, Davis, and Camille, who came because refusing would have been its own confession. The oleander hybrid sat in its expensive pot, flowers blooming cheerfully in the morning light. Beautiful, innocent-looking, deadly. "Don't touch it," Davis warned as Serena reached out. "Even the sap can cause problems." Serena stared at the plant her sister had insisted on placing near her newborn son. The plant she'd touched countless times while sitting vigil, then held her baby with contaminated hands. The plant that had been slowly killing Elliot, while 18 specialists looked everywhere except at the obvious. "How long has it been here?" Her voice was eerily calm. "About 5 weeks," Davis said. "And when did Elliot's symptoms start?" 4 weeks ago." Serena turned to Camille. "You knew." I swear I didn't know it was poisonous. The boutique said it was rare, exclusive." "What's the name of the boutique?" Camille hesitated. "I don't remember." "You don't remember where you bought a plant you insisted on putting in my son's nursery?" "It was someplace downtown." "Camille." Serena's voice dropped to something dangerous. "Tell me the truth right now, or I swear to God." "He's first in line now," Camille said suddenly, the words bursting out like poison of their own kind. "Do you understand that? Your son. First in line for everything, the company, the estate, the trust funds, everything our grandfather built, everything I've worked for, managing Valegen's European operations, sitting on the board, making decisions that actually matter, and it all goes to him, to a baby, because he's male and I'm not." The silence that followed was absolute. "You tried to kill my son," Serena whispered, "over money." "I didn't try to kill him. I thought maybe he'd get sick enough that you'd lose him, that it would look natural. Babies die all the time, and then things would go back to how they were supposed to be." Davis was already on his phone, speaking in low, urgent tones. Serena stood very still, afraid that if she moved, she'd do something she couldn't take back. "You've been coming here every day, caring for that plant, watching him get sicker, watching me fall apart, and you said nothing." "You always got everything," Camille said, and now tears were streaming down her face. "You were the pretty one, the smart one, the one Dad loved more, and now you get a son, and I get nothing, and it's not fair. Get out!" Serena's voice was barely audible. "Get out before I kill you myself." Davis stepped forward. "Ma'am, she needs to stay until police arrive." "Then take her somewhere I don't have to see her." They led Camille away, her protests echoing down the hallway. Serena stood alone in the nursery, staring at the plant that had nearly stolen her son. A plant chosen specifically for its beauty and its ability to kill slowly enough to seem like tragedy rather than murder. She thought of Malik, the quiet man who tended the gardens, who'd tried to warn them, who'd risked everything to be heard, and who was sitting in a holding cell awaiting deportation because he dared to know something the important people didn't. In the surgical bay, Elliot's heart monitor showed improving rhythm as the antidote worked through his tiny body. Not fixed yet, the damage would take time to heal, but stabilizing. Moving away from the edge of the cliff, his aunt had tried to push him over. Dr. Chen emerged from surgery hours later, exhausted and shaken. He found Serena in the waiting area, her eyes hollow with shock. "He's going to make it," Dr. Chen said. "The treatment is working, but Ms. Vale..." He sat down heavily beside her. We almost killed him. We were so focused on finding a rare disease, something exotic enough to match the mystery, that we ignored the possibility of something simple, something obvious. It wasn't obvious to you, Serena said quietly. But it was obvious to him. To the gardener. Dr. Chen nodded, his face heavy with shame. I've been practicing medicine for 30 years. I've published papers. I've taught at medical schools. And I was about to implant a pacemaker into a poisoned infant because I couldn't imagine that someone without credentials might know something I didn't. He looked at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. Where is he now? Being deported. For trying to save my son's life. The two of them sat in silence, contemplating the profound injustice of it. I'd like to speak with him, Dr. Chen said finally. To apologize, and to learn. Because clearly, there are gaps in my knowledge that nearly cost a child his life. Serena stood abruptly. Where are they holding him? They found Malik still cuffed to the chair in the security room, his head bowed in exhaustion. He looked up when the door opened, expecting more interrogation, more accusations. Instead, he saw Serena Vale and a doctor in surgical scrubs, both of them looking at him with expressions he couldn't quite read. Is the baby? Malik started. Alive, Serena said, her voice breaking on the word. Because of you. They gave him the antidote. His heart is stabilizing. Malik closed his eyes, relief flooding through him so intensely it was almost painful. Thank God. Mr. Kofi, Dr. Chen stepped forward. I owe you an apology that no words can adequately convey. You tried to tell us, multiple times, and I dismissed you because you weren't wearing the right credentials, because your knowledge came from sources I didn't respect. That failure nearly killed a patient, and I will have to live with that for the rest of my career. You saved him in time, Malik said. That's what matters. No. Dr. Chen shook his head. What matters is that this should never have happened. Your warnings should have been heard the first time. The system that's supposed to protect patients nearly killed one because it couldn't see past its own arrogance. Serena knelt beside Malik's chair, meeting his eyes at level. My sister tried to murder my son, with a plant you identified immediately. You warned everyone who would listen, and no one listened because you were just the gardener. Her voice hardened with anger, not directed at him. The injustice of that is something I'm going to spend a very long time trying to make right. Ma'am, I was just doing what anyone— No, not anyone. Most people would have stayed quiet to protect their jobs. You risked everything. She turned to Davis, who stood in the doorway. Uncuff him, now. Ma'am, immigration has already been— I don't care what's been called. Uncuff him or you're fired. Davis moved forward with the keys, releasing the cuffs. Malik rubbed his wrists, the circulation returning in painful tingles. Mr. Kofi, Serena continued, I'm going to use every resource at my disposal to fix your visa situation. I'm going to hire the best immigration lawyers in the country, and I'm going to make sure that what happened here, the dismissal of your knowledge, the silencing of your voice, becomes a case study in how badly institutions fail when they stop listening to wisdom that doesn't come with the right paperwork. I appreciate that, ma'am, but I don't want— I'm also going to offer you compensation, a significant amount, enough to bring your daughter here immediately, to set you both up comfortably, to— No. Malik said it gently but firmly. Thank you, but no. Serena blinked, surprised. I don't understand. Money won't fix this. Money won't change the fact that traditional knowledge, ancestral wisdom, the kind of understanding passed down through generations, it's dismissed every day by systems that only value what they can measure and credential. My grandmother saved hundreds of lives with plants she learned from her grandmother. But because she never went to university, because she couldn't publish papers or get grants, her knowledge died with her. He stood, his legs unsteady after hours in the chair. If you want to make this right, help me create something that honors her. That honors all the healers whose wisdom is disappearing because the world doesn't take it. Seriously, what did you have in mind? Malik took a breath, the idea forming as he spoke it. A research institute. A place where traditional healers and modern doctors work together, where someone like my grandmother could collaborate with someone like Dr. Chen, where knowledge is valued regardless of where it comes from, and where the goal is saving lives rather than protecting egos or institutions. Dr. Chen straightened, interest sparking in his exhausted eyes. A bridge between traditional medicine and modern practice. Exactly. Rigorous science applied to ancestral knowledge. Testing what works, understanding why it works, sharing it with the world in ways that respect both its origins and its effectiveness. Serena was quiet for a moment, processing. Then she nodded slowly. The Kofi Institute for Ancestral Medicine. We'll fund it through Veilgen's charitable foundation. You'll direct it. Dr. Chen, would you be willing to serve as chief medical advisor? I'd be honored, Dr. Chen said immediately. Ma'am, I'm not qualified to direct. You're the most qualified person I know, Serena interrupted. You saw what 18 credentialed experts missed. You understood something that nearly every medical professional in this building failed to grasp. That's exactly the kind of knowledge we need leading this work. Malik felt tears prickling his eyes. My grandmother would have liked that. Then let's make it happen. As soon as Elliot is fully recovered, I'll start the paperwork. We'll build it right here on the estate grounds. A research facility, a teaching center, a place where wisdom and science shake hands instead of turning their backs on each other. 3 weeks later, police arrested Camille Vale in the terminal at JFK Airport, attempting to board a flight to Switzerland with $2 million in hastily liquidated assets. The evidence was overwhelming. Purchase records for the oleander from a specialty botanical supplier who'd warned her explicitly about its toxicity. Internet search history full of queries about untraceable poisons and infant mortality rates. Financial documents showing she'd been embezzling from Veilgen for years to support a lifestyle her salary couldn't maintain. So, the villain gets caught. But here's what bothers me. This almost didn't happen. One man's voice was ignored by everyone with power. How many other warnings are being dismissed right now? Hit that subscribe button if you believe knowledge doesn't require permission to be valid. And comment below, have you ever known something important that nobody would listen to? Because I guarantee you're not alone. The trial would be sensational. The media would feast on it. A wealthy woman attempting to murder her nephew over inheritance. Caught because a gardener knew more about plants than she'd anticipated. But that came later. For now, Malik sat in the estate's greenhouse with his laptop, sketching plans for the institute. Everything seems fine. Dr. Chen visited twice a week, bringing medical journals and asking questions about traditional treatments Malik's grandmother had used. Other doctors began to reach out, intrigued by the case, curious about what they might be missing by dismissing non-Western medical knowledge. Elliot recovered slowly but steadily, the poison's grip releasing day by day. Serena brought him to the greenhouse once, wrapped in blankets despite the warm air, wanting Malik to see the life he'd saved. He's beautiful, Malik said, looking at the tiny face that had caused so much chaos. He's alive, Serena corrected, because you refused to stay silent. She smiled, reaching out to touch one of the plants nearby. A gesture of trust, of connection to the knowledge that had saved her son. Then her smile faltered. Malik, I feel. Her words slurred. Her eyes rolled back. She collapsed. Elliot's wail pierced the air as Malik lunged forward, catching both mother and child before they hit the concrete floor. The baby screamed against his chest, terrified but unharmed. Serena lay unconscious in his arms, her skin suddenly pale, her breathing shallow. Serena, can you hear me? Malik's heart hammered. His mind raced through possibilities. Stroke, seizure, exhaustion. The greenhouse door exploded open. 2 uniformed officers burst in, weapons drawn, their faces twisted with rage and fear. You bastard, what did you do? One of them shouted, his voice cracking with fury. The other raised his gun, the barrel pointed directly at Malik's head. Freeze! You're under arrest! Malik's arms tightened protectively around the screaming baby and the unconscious woman. his mouth open to explain, to defend himself. But no words came. Just the crushing, familiar weight of being seen but not heard, believed guilty before proven innocent. The gun didn't waver. Elliot's cries filled the greenhouse like an accusation, and Malik realized with cold, terrifying certainty. This wasn't over. Someone was still playing a game he didn't understand, and this time he might not survive to tell the truth. Wait. What? Just when you thought he was safe, everything collapses again. If you're screaming at your screen right now, you need to subscribe because part 2 drops tomorrow, and I promise you, the real villain will shock you. Comment below what you think is happening, because this conspiracy goes deeper than anyone suspected. Hit that subscribe button now, or you'll miss the most shocking twist of this entire story.